Sign here and she's ours, my sister-in-law said, sliding a clipboard across the police station counter like it was a dinner check. Lila was 6 and still small enough that her backpack strap kept slipping off her shoulder. She clung to my coat with both hands, eyes wet, trying to understand why grown-ups were talking about her like she wasn't standing there. The officer behind the glass scanned the page. "Ma'am, if this is an emergency guardianship order, you need to step back." Step back, like my child was a disputed package. I leaned forward, keeping my voice low because I could feel the room waiting for me to be the problem. "That's not a court order. That's a school emergency contact form." She took it from my bag. Mara didn't flinch. She smiled, soft and wounded, like she'd been forced into sainthood. "Tess, please, don't make Lila watch you spiral. We're trying to keep her safe. Keep her safe." That sentence turns toxic when someone uses it to steal your kid. Lila's voice shook. "Mom, am I in trouble?" "No, baby." I kissed the top of her head, even though my hands were shaking. "You're not in trouble." Mara clicked her pen. "Then sign. If you refuse, we'll have to tell them why." Tell them why like she had a whole script ready. A story where I was unstable and she was the hero aunt. Behind her, my brother Eli stood with his arms folded, eyes on the floor. Not on me, not on Lila, on the floor, like he could hide in it. "Eli," I whispered. "Tell him this isn't real. Tell him." Eli's jaw twitched. That was all he offered. A muscle movement while my life cracked open. Mara crouched to Lila's level, syrup voice on. "Honey, we're gonna get you a warm bed tonight. You don't have to be scared anymore." Lila pressed into my side. "I'm not scared of my mom." Mara's smile stuttered for half a second, then reset. "See? She's confused. She needs stability." Mara's folder wasn't even subtle. I could see the colored tabs through the plastic cover. Medical school, guardianship. That last tab made my vision blur. Who makes a guardianship tab for a child who already has a mother? And the scariest part was how normal Mara looked doing it. No snarling, no raised voice. Just calm, like she was filing taxes. Like removing my kid was an administrative upgrade. The officer slid open a side door. "Ma'am, come with me." My heart slammed. I tightened my grip on Lila. "You're not separating us." "No one's separating," Mara cut in, gentle and deadly. "Unless you make it necessary." That was the moment I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a plan. And Mara had already gotten the system to look at me like a risk. Ever. 6 hours earlier, I'd been in the school pickup line with a cheap coffee cooling in the cup holder and a mental list of things I couldn't afford this week. Normal thoughts. Survival thoughts. Lila skipped out, smiling, then her teacher followed, face tight. "Miss Harlow, can you come inside for a moment?" Inside the office, the principal sat with a woman in a blazer and a badge. She introduced herself like she was a weather alert. "Miss Harlow, I'm with Family Services. We received a report. A report can turn you into a stranger in your own life." She glanced at Lila. "We can discuss details privately." Lila grabbed my sleeve. "Mom, what is she talking about?" I crouched. "Color at the table, sweetheart." I tried to smile. Lila didn't move. She didn't trust the room. Neither did I. The worker slid a page across the desk. "We have concerns about housing stability and supervision. We may need a temporary safety plan. 2 weeks ago, I'd left my husband after one too many accidents that looked like fists meeting walls. I hadn't told the school the whole truth because I was still scared he'd find us. I'd told them we were staying with family, which sounded safe and normal. I'd gone to Eli's because he'd sworn, "Come here, you're safe." Mara had smiled wide and said, "Of course. Family." Now the worker's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then looked up. "A relative is here." Mara walked in, holding a folder like she'd been waiting in the hallway. Hi, I'm Lila's aunt. I'm here to help. She turned to the worker like they were co-workers. Lila can stay with us. Guest room ready. We already have her inhaler instructions. My blood went ice. Why are you here? Mara squeezed my shoulder, fake, comforting, real control. The school called. They were worried. The principal avoided my eyes, and that was the first detail that felt wrong. Not sad, not tense, wrong. Like he'd been told what to do. Mara leaned close enough for only me to hear. If you fight this, you'll look unstable. Do you want to lose her for real? I grabbed Lila and walked out before my legs gave out. I didn't know where to go when someone is trying to take your child with paperwork and a smile. So I drove to the police station. Mara followed, and now she was at the counter, trying to turn a school form into a cage while my brother stood there pretending silence was neutral. I took a breath and did the one thing Mara didn't expect. Lila's fingers were so cold they felt like little sticks against my palm, and I hated that her childhood was being measured in forms instead of bedtime stories. I want a supervisor, I said. And Mara's hand, still resting on the clipboard, tightened like she'd just realized I wasn't going to play the role she wrote for me. The supervising officer came out looking tired, like he'd already dealt with too many versions of family drama that were actually danger. Mara went first, of course she did. Officer, my sister-in-law is having a mental health episode. We just want to keep my niece safe tonight. She said episode like it was a diagnosis, not an insult. Like I was a headline she'd memorized. I kept my voice flat. That paper isn't legal. She stole it. I'm Lila's mother. The supervisor took the document. His eyes flicked over it. This is a school contact form. Mara didn't miss a beat. Family services told us to step in. Tess is sleeping in her car. Lila has asthma. This is unsafe. My stomach dropped. I hadn't told anyone about the car. The only reason I'd even considered it was because Mara had said, sweetly, that Eli needed quiet and I should take a night to reset. That was her phrasing. Like homelessness was self-care. I looked at Eli. His face went blank, and that blankness answered me. He told her. The supervisor's gaze landed on me. Ma'am, do you have stable housing? The supervisor knelt so he was level with Lila. Sweetie, are you okay? He asked gently. Did anyone hurt you? Lila's eyes went huge. She looked at me like answering wrong would change her whole life. I hated that a stranger was the one asking. But I also knew this was how it goes. The system talks to the kid and decides who the villain is. I'm okay, she whispered. I don't like when people yell. Mara jumped on it instantly. See? That's what I've been saying. Tess has been yelling a lot lately. My stomach flipped. I hadn't yelled. I'd begged. I'd tried to keep my voice low because I've spent my whole life being punished for volume. Lila shook her head, tiny but firm. Not my mom. Mara's smile held, but her eyes sharpened like a blade. Here was the trap. Lie and get caught, or tell the truth and get punished for being broke. I have a job, I said. I have my child's medicine. I have a temporary place, and my daughter is with me. Mara's voice sharpened. Still polite. Temporary place meaning my house. We asked her to leave. What? My head snapped toward Eli. Eli's voice finally showed up, small and exhausted. Mara's mom is coming this weekend. It's tense. We don't have space. We don't have space. Like my kid was a piece of furniture. Mara patted his arm like he was the brave one. We offered to take Lila. Tess can get herself together. Get herself together is what people say when they want you dependent. Lila whispered, Mom, are they taking me? I crouched and held her face. Look at me. You stay with me. I could feel her tiny lungs moving fast. Fear makes asthma worse. Mara knew that. Then I turned back to the supervisor. I want this documented. She attempted to use a false document to take my child. Mara's smile tightened. Tess, don't do this. You'll make things worse. Worse than you trying to separate us, I said quietly. The supervisor nodded. We can make a report. While I wrote my statement, Mara stepped into the hallway and made a call. I could hear her through the glass because she didn't bother lowering her voice. Yes, Dad, she said. Not Eli's dad. Not my dad. Just Dad. Like whoever was on the other end had authority over her too. She's not cooperating. She's trying to make a report. Yes, tonight. I'll text you. Then she walked back in and smiled at me like she hadn't just called in reinforcements. The supervisor noticed too. His eyes followed her back into the lobby, and his tone shifted from, please calm down, to, what are you doing? Mara acted offended. I'm coordinating with family, she said. Like that explained everything. Lila whispered in my ear, Mom, are we going to a new house? And my chest tightened. Because even my kid could feel the tug of war, and Mara was already selling her the shiny version of betrayal. Lila kept smoothing her skirt over her knees, over and over, a nervous little habit she picked up when adults argue near her. I wanted to scream that none of this was her fault. She didn't create our instability. She was just the excuse Mara needed. A third wrong detail. The whole time, Mara kept her body angled toward Lila, like she was already practicing how to stand between us in public. I finished the report, signed it, and stood to hand it back and realized my purse wasn't on my shoulder. I patted my coat, the chair, the floor. Nothing. My purse had my ID, my card, and Lila's rescue inhaler. I looked up at the glass doors. Mara and Eli were gone. Then Lila's voice came small and terrified. Mom, my chest feels tight. Quick pause if you're hooked. Hit like and subscribe. And stay with me, because part 3 is where Mara crosses a line you can't unsee. I ran outside with Lila clinging to me, cold air slicing into my throat. Eli's truck was still there. Engine on. Mara sat in the passenger seat with my purse on her lap like it belonged to her. I walked up fast, keeping my body between the truck and Lila. Give it back. Mara rolled the window down halfway, calm as a commercial. You forgot your bag. You took it, I said. You knew her inhaler is in there. Mara's eyes stayed flat. That's why I grabbed it. You're not thinking clearly. I reached for the purse. Mara pulled it away. Say Lila stays with us tonight, she said softly. And you can have it. Lila wheezed. Not dramatic. Real. That thin, tight sound that makes your brain panic before your heart catches up. I stared at Mara. She heard it too. She didn't flinch. She didn't rush. She just waited, like she'd placed a bet. I looked through the windshield at Eli. If you drive away with her medicine, I said, you're choosing her suffering. Not Mara. Her. Eli's hands clenched on the wheel. His eyes watered. For half a second, I thought he'd finally wake up. Then Mara touched his arm, and his face shut down. She leaned closer to the glass and said, almost kindly, You're not in a position to negotiate, Tess. It was remembered. That word position was so businesslike it made my stomach turn. Like she'd turned my motherhood into a job I could be fired from. I ran back inside and told the supervisor, voice shaking with rage. She took my purse. My child's medication is in it. The supervisor moved fast. 2 officers went out with him. I watched through the glass as Mara lifted her hands in that innocent way, like, who, me? They came back with my purse. The supervisor's expression said he wasn't buying Mara's excuses. I ripped the zipper open, shoved the inhaler into Lila's hands. 2 puffs, baby. Slow. Lila inhaled. Cough. Inhale. Her shoulders eased a fraction. Color crept back into her face. I wanted to collapse. Instead, I looked at Mara and said quietly, You did that on purpose. Mara's smile was thin. You're hysterical. The supervisor stepped between us. Ma'am, you need to leave. Now. Mara backed away like she was the victim being threatened. But before she turned, she slipped something into Eli's hand, small, folded paper. He palmed it like a secret. When they walked out, my stomach dropped again. Because Mara wasn't just improvising, she was distributing instructions. As the doors shut, my phone rang. A woman's voice. "Miss Harlow? This is Diane Park with Family Services. We need to do a home visit tonight. Tonight." I stared at my daughter, still clutching her inhaler like a life raft. "We don't have a home," I whispered. A pause. Then we'll need to determine an emergency placement." My blood went cold. Back in my car, I read the bullet points again. The phrasing felt familiar, like the kind of helpful advice I grew up hearing from one person. My father. I hadn't spoken to him in years. Not since he told me I was too sensitive after I showed up to work with a split lip. Not since he looked at my bruises like they were my personality flaw. I stared at the paper until my eyes burned, then crumpled it and shoved it into the glove box like hiding it would make it less real. That's when headlights swept across my rearview mirror. A car had pulled into the lot behind me and parked 3 spaces away, engine still running. Not a cop, not a taxi, just waiting. I couldn't see the driver's face, but I could feel the attention like a hand on the back of my neck. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I just watched that car and counted my breaths like that could keep us invisible. Lila dozed in her booster seat, her mouth open slightly. The stuffed dog Renee would later give her still a few hours away. Her cheeks were still damp from earlier tears, and every time she shifted, my body jolted like an alarm. My phone lit up again, this time not Family Services. Unknown. "You can still fix this. Bring her to the right family." No name. No number I recognized. Just certainty. That was the 4th wrong detail. Not a threat from Mara. Something older. Something that sounded like a man who thinks he owns people. "Can I schedule for tomorrow morning?" I asked, trying to sound like a person with options. "Refusal can be considered non-compliance," Diane said, crisp and practiced. "We have a relative offering placement." "Mara?" I said, and my voice broke on her name. Diane didn't answer directly. "We want what's best for Lila." There it was again. The slogan people hide behind while they take things. After I hung up, Lila looked up at me. "Mom, are we bad?" "No." My throat burned. "We're just in trouble with people who don't know us." We sat in my car, heater barely working, and I made a plan with the resources I had. A legal aid card, a dying phone battery, and a kid who needed me to pretend I knew what I was doing. That's when I noticed an envelope tucked under my windshield wiper. No stamp. No address. Just my name in neat handwriting, my full name, including my maiden name I hadn't used in years. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 3 bullet points. Admit you are homeless. Request placement with relative options. Do not mention the inhaler incident. My skin went cold all over again, because that wasn't Mara's handwriting, and whoever wrote it knew exactly how to make me lose. I drove until the streets got quiet, until the city looked like it had gone to sleep without me. I didn't go back to Eli's. I didn't even pass the turn. My brain kept replaying the envelope on my windshield and the words on it like a threat disguised as advice. I pulled into the legal aid clinic lot anyway. Locked doors, dark windows, a flyer taped to the glass. Free family law help Wednesdays. It was Tuesday. My phone buzzed again. "We are en route to conduct a safety check. Please provide your location." If I answered, they'd show up, see me in my car, and decide safety meant take her now. If I didn't, they'd label me uncooperative and take her later. Mara had built a box where every choice hurt. Then Eli called. I shouldn't have answered. I did, because a tiny part of me still wanted my brother to choose me. "Tess," he said, voice tight. "Where are you?" "Not with you," I said. Mara's voice floated in the background, too loud. Tell her to come back. Tell her to do the right thing. Eli swallowed. Family Services said if you don't cooperate, they might place Lila with us. With Mara? I said. Silence. I don't know what you want me to do, he whispered. I want you to stop feeding her my life, I said. Stop telling her where I work, where I go. Stop letting her speak for me. Another hesitation. Then Mara barked. Fine. Don't call us when you're homeless. The line went dead. I sat in the dark, shaking, and realized something ugly. The system doesn't need you to be a bad mom. It just needs you to be a scared one. A knock hit my window. I jerked hard enough to smack the steering wheel. A woman stood there with a thermos and a folded blanket, eyes tired but kind. No badge, no clipboard. I work nights across the street, she said gently. Urgent care. I've seen that inhaler grip. You okay? Suspicion and desperation fought inside me. Who are you? Dr. Renee Maddox, she said. Then she studied my face like a memory. Tessa Harlow, you were 15 when you came in with a fractured wrist. Your dad said you fell. My throat closed. I hadn't fallen. Renee's voice stayed soft. I didn't forget your eyes. I wanted to deny it, to pretend the past wasn't relevant. But the envelope with my maiden name made my stomach twist. Someone knows things, I whispered. Things they shouldn't. Renee's gaze sharpened. Who's someone? My sister-in-law, I said. And I don't know. It feels bigger. It is visst? Renee nodded once, like she'd heard that sentence before. Okay. Park behind my house tonight, hidden from the road. In the morning, I'll walk you into legal aid. I have a friend there. My phone rang again, Family Services. Renee nodded at the screen. Let me talk. I handed her the phone because my pride doesn't matter more than my kid. Renee answered, voice calm and professional. This is Dr. Renee Maddox. I'm with Miss Harlow and her child. The child is medically stable and in her mother's care. Miss Harlow will comply with a safety check tomorrow morning at your office. Tonight, they are not available for an unannounced visit. Diane Park's voice sharpened. And who are you to decide that? A mandated reporter preventing unnecessary trauma, Renee said evenly. If you have a removal order, state it. If not, we'll see you at 9 a.m. Silence. No removal order at this time, Diane admitted. Renee ended the call. They count on your panic, she told me. Don't give it away. Inside Renee's kitchen, the warmth hit me so hard my eyes stung. It wasn't fancy, just clean counters, a bowl of oranges, a little stack of mail. Normal. Safe normal. Renee handed me a mug of tea and didn't ask for my whole story like it was entertainment. She just said, drink. Lila sat at the table, still in her coat, and Renee offered her a small stuffed dog from a basket by the fridge. Lila took it cautiously, like gifts can have strings. After a minute, Lila whispered to me, Aunt Mara told me to say you forgot my medicine. My stomach dropped. She said that? Lila nodded, eyes serious. She said if I say it, then we get a big house. I know, a big house, a kid's version of stability. Mara had been coaching my child, like she was prepping a witness. Renee's jaw tightened. That's not help, she said quietly. That's grooming the narrative. Behind Renee's fence, I tucked Lila under a blanket and watched her sleep like sleep was a miracle. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Renee brought out a small plastic box and set it on my dashboard. Spare inhaler and spacer, she said. Clinic sample. For backup, I stared at it, overwhelmed. I can't. You can, she cut in softly. Not because you owe me. Because your kid deserves redundancy. Lila woke enough to squint at Renee. Are you a take-me-away doctor? My throat clenched. Renee crouched. No. I'm a help-you-breathe doctor. Lila considered that. then nodded and went back to sleep. Before Renee went inside, she said quietly, "Tomorrow is going to get ugly." I nodded. "And," she added, eyes narrowing, "your sister-in-law isn't this confident by accident. Someone taught her the system." I swallowed. "Who?" Renee's gaze flicked to the envelope on my passenger seat, the one with my maiden name. "Someone who knew that name," she said. "Someone from your past." Renee picked up the crumpled envelope from my passenger seat and smoothed it out carefully, like it might bite. "This paper," she said, turning it under her kitchen light, "has a watermark. See it? District letterhead stock. Someone got this from a school office." My stomach dropped. "So the school helped? Or someone inside the school was pressured," she said. "Either way, it means your sister-in-law has reach." At 8:03 I walked into legal aid with Lila's hand in mine and Dr. Maddox beside me like a wall. A volunteer recognized Renee immediately. "We can squeeze her in," she said, and didn't ask me to justify my existence first. The attorney who took us was young but sharp. "I'm Kara Nguyen," she said. "Start from the beginning." I told her about the school, the report, Mara's folder, the police station, the inhaler hostage move, the home visit threat, and the envelope with my maiden name. Kara's expression changed at the envelope. "That's targeted," she said. "Someone is steering you into saying the wrong thing." Kara pulled the phone record from my missed calls and had me screenshot everything. "If they're building a story, we build a timeline," she said. "Dates beat vibes." She asked for Lila's school file. When I mentioned the principal wouldn't meet my eyes, Kara's expression sharpened. "Sometimes schools panic," she said. "Sometimes someone pressures them." Renee added. "Mara talked like she'd done this before." Kara paused. "Has she?" She typed quickly, then looked up. "Public records are messy, but not invisible." 15 minutes later, Kara's screen showed a docket entry. A guardianship petition from 2 years ago, Mara listed as interested party. Not for my kid. For her own younger cousin after a custody fight. Mara hadn't learned the system yesterday. She'd practiced. Kara stared at the screen, then at me. "This is a pattern. That helps us." Renee added. "Mara used the child's asthma as leverage." Kara nodded. "We can push for a plan that keeps Lila with you. And we can document harassment." Could not wait. She started drafting. Fast. Response letter. Request for the report. Demand that any safety plan not separate child and mother absent a removal order. My life. Translated into legal language I'd never been allowed to speak. Then the door opened without knocking. Diane Park walked in like she owned the room. "Miss Harlow, we need to discuss compliance." Kara stood. "I'm her counsel." "Speak through me." Diane's eyes flicked to Renee, annoyance flashing. "We need proof of stable housing." Kara stayed calm. "Miss Harlow has safe temporary accommodation while she secures a lease. The child is medically supported." Diane's mouth tightened. "A relative is offering placement." Kara didn't blink. "We oppose it." "That relative withheld the child's medication." Diane's eyes narrowed. "Allegation." Renee quietly texted someone while Kara drafted. After a minute, she said, "The staff member's name is Kelsey Holloway, Mara's cousin. If she accessed any patient info, my clinic's compliance officer will have a field day." Kara nodded. "Good. Consequences make people back off faster than emotions." Renee leaned forward. "I treated Miss Harlow as a teen. Injuries inconsistent with the story provided. This family has a history of coercion." Diane's eyes sharpened. "Are you alleging abuse by her family of origin?" Kara answered. "We're alleging a pattern of control that makes relative placement unsafe." Diane shut her folder. "Fine. Formal meeting later. 48 hours for housing documentation, or we pursue alternatives." Then, at the door, she added, "We also received a tip that Miss Harlow has been stealing prescription medication. If you activate," my vision tunneled. "What?" Diane's voice stayed flat. "An inhaler, allegedly taken from a family member. Mara was turning my daughter's medicine into a crime." When Diane left, Kara swore under her breath. "That's not just gossip. That's a calculated accusation." Renee stared at the door, jaw clenched. "And it's too specific." Kara's eyes snapped up. "Meaning?" Renee said slowly. "Meaning someone is feeding her details from inside a clinic or office." My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A photo. Lila asleep in my back seat the night before, shot from outside the car. Below it, "You can't hide her from family." My blood went cold. Kara immediately filed a police report. Then she asked me, "Who knows your maiden name besides family?" I didn't answer out loud, because the name that popped into my head tasted like old fear. My father. Kara watched my face and nodded slowly, like she'd just found the missing piece. "Okay," she said. "Then we treat this as coordinated harassment." Renee leaned in. "I have a staff member related to Mara. She started nights recently. If she accessed information, we report her too." Kara exhaled. "Good. Paper trails beat stories." And that's when my email pinged. A reply to the message Kara had helped me send that morning, to the only adult I trusted from my past, my old school counselor. Subject line: "I remember you. The body was one sentence. Your father is calling people again. Come to my office now." My stomach dropped. Kara didn't want Lila interviewed alone without preparation. Not to teach her answers, just to protect her from traps. She knelt by Lila and said, "If a grown-up asks you questions about your mom, what do you do?" Lila looked at me first, then said, "I say I want my mom there." End quote. Kara smiled. "Perfect." Then she looked at me. "They'll try to make your child repeat adult words. If Mara coached her once, she'll try again. We cut that off now. Because if my father was calling people, it meant Mara wasn't the only one moving pieces. It meant the person who taught her had finally stepped into the game. We went to the resource center first because Kara needed me in a bed with an address, not a car with a prayer. Intake forms. A small room with 2 twin beds. A door that locked from the inside. Lila asked if she could pick the bed closest to the window, like she was choosing a hotel, and I said yes because she deserved choices. Then Kara drove me to my old counselor's building. She didn't let me go alone. Miss Delgado opened the office door and pulled me in like she'd been holding her breath for years. She looked older, tired, but her eyes were the same, the kind that notice bruises even when you smile. "He called the district," she whispered. "Not just your school. The district. He's telling them you're unstable and that your daughter is medically neglected." My legs went weak. "How does he even know what's happening?" Miss Delgado's mouth tightened. "Because your sister-in-law called him, and because he never stopped watching. He just waited until you had something he could use." I thought of the envelope with my maiden name. I thought of the bullet points steering me into saying I was homeless. My father didn't need to take Lila himself, he just needed the system to do it for him. Kara immediately filed for an emergency protective order against Mara and my father. Renee submitted a statement about the inhaler incident and about the clinic employees' potential access. 2 days later, Kara got the actual family services report. The complainant wasn't anonymous. The notes listed a name, Mara Holloway. And the secondary caller? Everett Lane, my father, a man I'd blocked years ago for a reason. Kara didn't let me spiral. "We get housing paperwork. We get the case closed. We make them regret putting their names on this." The resource center helped me secure a tiny apartment through an emergency program. Ugly carpet, thin walls, but it had a lease with my name on it. A document the world considers proof you deserve to keep your child. Family services did their home visit. Clean sheets, food, inhaler on the counter. Lila giggling at cartoons. 3 weeks later, the case was closed. I should have felt safe. I didn't. Because Mara filed for temporary guardianship anyway, court came fast. Mara walked in with a binder and a pastor because she wanted good family to be a costume you could wear in front of a judge. Eli sat beside her, pale, eyes down, like he'd been shrink-wrapped into obedience. Kara stood with me. Renee sat behind us. Lila sat with a volunteer, clutching her stuffed bunny like it could protect her. Mara spoke first, voice smooth. Tessa is overwhelmed. We love Lila. We just want what's best. Stability, 2 parents, a consistent home. Kara asked one question. Miss Holloway, did you withhold the child's rescue inhaler from her mother while the child was wheezing? Mara blinked. No. Kara handed the judge the police incident report and Renee's affidavit. The judge's eyebrows lifted. Renee stood and described, calmly, what she saw. Lila's tightening chest, my shaking hands. Mara's bargains say she stays with us and you can have it. Mara's face tightened. She looked at Eli for rescue. Eli stared at his hands. Kara kept going. Did you file the initial report with family services? Mara hesitated. I was concerned. And did you coordinate with the child's grandfather, Mr. Everett Lane? The judge turned. Mr. Lane, stand. My father rose from the back row, calm as ever. He called it concern. He called me unstable. He used words he'd used my entire childhood, just dressed up for court. The judge looked at me. Why didn't you go to your parents? My throat burned, but I told the truth, plain. Because my father doesn't help. He controls, and he hurt me when I was a kid. I wasn't bringing my daughter into that. Silence swallowed the room. Then Eli stood up, shaky, like his body was finally done cooperating with lies. Your Honor, I gave Mara information. Where Tess worked, where she went. I thought I was helping. I wasn't. I was helping Mara. Mara's head snapped. Eli, stop. Eli's voice cracked. I'm ashamed. The judge's gaze sharpened at Mara. This petition appears retaliatory and coercive. The ruling came down. No guardianship. A no-contact order for Mara and my father. Any attempt to pick Lila up from school would trigger immediate police involvement. I walked out holding Lila's hand. Sunlight on our faces like permission. Eli tried to call me the night after the ruling. I stared at his name on my screen until it stopped ringing. Then it rang again. And again. Finally, I texted one sentence. You don't get to be my brother on days it's convenient. He replied with a paragraph about pressure. And Mara made me, and I was scared. I didn't answer. Because fear doesn't excuse handing my daughter's safety to someone who treats her like leverage. Weeks later, he sent a picture of a set of spare keys with the message, if you ever need a place. I looked at it for a long time. Then I deleted it. Not because I wanted revenge, because I wanted clarity. I couldn't teach Lila that love means ignoring risk. And then, because my family cannot lose gracefully, my father tried one last move. He showed up at Lila's school with a notarized letter claiming grandparent rights, acting like paper could rewrite reality. The receptionist didn't release her. Security walked him out. The school updated every file. No contact, no exceptions, no but he's family. The next day, I updated every form I could find. School, clinic, daycare, waitlist. I removed Mara's name, Eli's address, my father's number. I replaced family with people who'd actually shown up. Miss Delgado, Kara, Renee, the resource center advocate. That night, Lila fell asleep in her own bed and didn't clutch her inhaler in her fist. It was the smallest victory, but it felt like a new nervous system. That night, Lila asked me, Mom, why do people say family like it means you have to say yes? I held her close and answered the way I wish someone had answered me when I was little. Because it's easier for them if you feel guilty. But love doesn't need guilt to work. Now my question to you, because people split hard on this. If your family tried to take your child for her own good, do you cut them off forever? Or do you leave a door open and risk them walking back in?